Cyberpunk 2077 embodies the perfect example of, if you mess up, don't apologize, just be better. It's no secret that it had, for lack of a better word, a rocky launch. However, word on the street is that, since the latest update and DLC release of Phantom Liberty, it seems to have redeemed itself. So I finished both the core game and the DLC for a total of about 100 hours to find out just how true this is. So without further ado, is Phantom Liberty any good? First, you have to understand the impact of this DLC and the update that came with it. Phantom Liberty both introduced a lot of new things and reworked a lot of stuff that was already present in the core game. I'm not gonna bore you with all that's been introduced, but here are some of the highlights of the DLC. The most significant ones are a new relic skill tree, Docktown as a new location, and a completely new storyline, side quests, and gigs that happen in the middle of the original story. Less significant but still important changes are the fact that the level cap has increased from 50 to 60, missions now include vehicle combat, and loads of new weapons, vehicles, and clothing. Apart from the DLC, the update introduces some changes as well, the most significant one being a new set of revamped perk trees. Although the game has seen a major improvement, are there still game-breaking glitches? A few.
I want to be a cowboy, baby!
But they aren't as common. Still funny though. I'd say that the more apparent issues with the game usually happen with dialogue. It was not rare that I would be in the middle of a phone conversation, then I arrive at the destination of a quest, and then I'd be listening to both the phone NPC and the quest NPC talking at the same time. Other than that, yeah, maybe the rare wall glitch or NPC stuck in a wall, but nothing too major. Less glitches and more DLC. By far the biggest introduction is the new location of Docktown. Is it any different from the rest of Night City? Is it less chaotic? Well, Night City is known for not being the most lawful or safest place to live in, and just like NC, or as a matter of fact, worse than Night City, Docktown manages to go a step closer to what it feels like, a living hell. Actually, Docktown makes the rest of the city look like a very clean Japanese town in comparison. Docktown is a tiny territory within Night City run by ex-NUSA Colonel Kurt Hansen, not to be confused with Chris Hansen on To Catch a Predator. This is not that type of show. He's the leader of a militia group named Barghest. Now, Docktown is part of the Pacifica district, however, it's been walled off almost as if it is its own little country. How did that happen, you ask? Honestly, I'd love to tell you, but if you play the DLC, you'll be able to find out. No spoilers here. I have an overall positive opinion of Docktown, but I still have some issues with it. With this DLC and within the area of Docktown, a lot of new quests have been introduced. They have a more complex feel, and they seem to be a lot more detailed. That's in dialogue, the acting is great, even that of characters that only take the stage for the duration of a singular conversation. Even the missions themselves are really fun and action-packed. So why do I have a mixed opinion? Firstly, I don't love the location, but that's just a personal preference. I think the developers hit the mark in respects to the design, and I wouldn't be able to fault it. I just don't like it as much for the simple reason that it looks and plays like slums. I don't enjoy the messy look, but that's a very small part of it, and it's a personal take. It doesn't speak to the quality of the design of the area. This personal opinion comes from the fact that, at times, I see some similarities between Cyberpunk 2077's districts and one of my favorite games of all time, Mirror's Edge. They are similar in the fact that they're both futuristic, Cyberpunk more than Mirror's Edge, but there's still a hint of it. Now, the difference between the two is that Mirror's Edge design is very clean. Most of the city is colored white, apart from when color is used to divide certain areas. When color is present, it's saturated and is used very sparingly, making it stand out and becoming a staple of the franchise. I would have loved a location where you infiltrate some sort of corpo billionaire secret society district and investigate that location in order to find a solution to V's lodged Ingram predicament. But hey, we can't always get what we want, and I still loved what we got regardless of my preferences. Which leads us to problem number 2. Considering that the majority of the missions occur within Docktown, the location feels small. They've compensated by making it a very vertical location, meaning that you can climb buildings very easily, there are cliffs and roads that lead you to the top of Docktown, but other than that, you'll be zooming in from side to side of this location in what feels like 30 seconds. I know that Docktown is meant to be small. Well, it's not even a full district, but my problem is gameplay focused, not so much narrative-wise. It makes sense for it to be as small as it is, I just wish it wasn't that tiny. But seeing that it is that tiny, they could have made some missions that would require you to go out of Docktown, but narrative-wise, I don't really think that would have worked. Since the famous 2019 E3 reveal of Cyberpunk 2077, this game has become synonymous with A-grade Hollywood actors. First we had Keanu Reeves, but now they've added one more to the roster. Idris Elba. I didn't know what to expect from his acting. I haven't really ever seen a movie or series with Idris Elba in it apart from, prepare to be disappointed, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Well, I gotta say, he's pretty good in this. I don't think the character he plays is particularly interesting. He's your run-of-the-mill tough guy that also has a mysterious demeanor and past. I don't think that the role he plays gave much space for nuance in his performance. He worked with what he had, but the character to me feels a bit too stereotypical, which, on a positive note, makes Johnny Sins look a bit better. All jokes aside though, when you have a character with a personality as strong as Johnny Silverhand, compounded on the fact that he's had around 3 times more screen time than that of Solomon Reed, you can't help but compare the two and come to the conclusion that Solomon feels a bit weaker as a character. You just don't end up getting as emotionally involved in his story because of the nature of the character's personality. On the other hand, there's another key character in this DLC that I felt much more connected to. That was Songbird. With Songbird, they set up her story in a way that makes you have questions all the way throughout your playthrough. You want to find out more about her and her motivations, especially because her motivations get questioned quite often during the unfolding of the plot, and you don't quite know which team she's playing for and where her allegiance lies. Additionally, your one-on-one moments with secondary characters such as ones like Judy, Panam, Rogue, you have that with Songbird, but with Solomon, they don't happen enough, and it just seems to fall flat a little bit. But what about the story? The story is really good. It's set up quite nicely, in a very insidious and mysterious fashion. You get contacted out of nowhere by someone you've never spoken to. This individual has a certain urgency in their voice, almost as if you're their last resort. Keeping this spoiler free, that is the beginning of a completely new and complex branch of the world and story of Cyberpunk 2077. One who puts you in the center stage of a decades-old conflict, and that makes you decide who do you owe, or better yet, decide who do you bet your allegiance on. A big part of this DLC fleshes out the political relationship of the new United States of America and Night City, but obviously shining a bigger light on Docktown in particular. It shows and tells the story of how Kurt Hansen seized control of Docktown and in some ways founded and semi-regulated the city on his own, all just as a show of power and as a huge middle finger to the president of the NUSA, Rosalind Myers. I want to add much more to this. You'll have to just play the DLC for yourself, but I would say that it is a DLC that is worth the money and the time you dedicate to playing it. I mentioned a new skill tree previously. Was that a good addition to the game? This new skill tree is a minor add to the gameplay mechanics, but a significant one in terms of how it feels to play the game. I haven't obtained all skills on this new tree, but it has a major impact on how combat plays out. Again, I'm keeping this spoiler free, but I believe this to be a great addition to the game. It doesn't mess with what worked before, it just compounds and adds a layer to what already worked before. If you haven't picked up Cyberpunk 2077 before, this would be the perfect excuse to. Ever since they made that animated series on Netflix, it seems like the turning point of Cyberpunk's quality. CD Projekt Red were invested and refused to let this game sink with a reputation of a buggy mess, and I commend them for it. I have only finished one run of it, but I really enjoyed it. I've done all side quests, all gigs, and the reason why this video took as long as it has is because I've been just focusing on enjoying my playthrough and not rushing it for the sake of a video. If you have some money to spare, I recommend this game and DLC wholeheartedly. It's a great experience through and through, with phenomenal acting, a great story, and even more impressively, a redeemed reputation and fantastic gameplay. And if you've already played it, let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to see how other people feel about it. See you guys next time.